Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bull Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader. And look, we had the recap and the prep for the whole season coming up this year in our season preview. But now college football is actually back. The first real college football episode here from the Bull Take Podcast, where we're going to recap week 0 and look ahead to maybe one of the best week 1s we've had in quite some time,
Oh
especially when
yeah.
you consider rankings and matchups that we're going to see here. But look, we can't get ahead of ourselves. Week 0 is back, and it brought some awesome action. Starting off the season in Dublin, Ireland, two ranked teams in the Big 12 going head to head. My personal prediction for the Big 12 championship at the end of the season, and a game that did not disappoint. Iowa State and Kansas State. Look, I think what I liked really from these teams is the defense that we saw
Mhm.
in this game from both sides. Look, you kind of think of the Big 12 over the last decade, maybe 15 years, as this everybody runs the air raid. Everybody's got a great offense, but not really a lot of great defenses. And that always leaves these teams kind of short when you start talking about championship contention. You think, well, they're not going to be able to stop anybody. It doesn't matter how good their offense is. Um, Look, if this is any test for what these two teams are going to be capable of doing for the rest of the year, these are two great defenses that can have these teams in championship conversations. I think maybe one of the more fun things we saw with this game is that it seemed like when one team scored, that's when the other team realized it was okay to start
Yeah.
scoring in this game. It would always be immediately after another score. So I thought it was a great game and a great way to start the season, as well as a thrilling finish.
Yeah. It was, let's just say like this, the rain made this a little bit uglier than it should have, but listen, it was a fun game. Like you said, these are two teams. I will say this though, if we're looking at these two as the top two teams, the Big 12 is going to be chaos again this year. Because let's say you talked about it, was two sides with solid defenses, but let's be honest here, it wasn't a perfect game for either side.
No,
Uh,
no.
wasn't great. Rocco Becht had some good moments. He had some good drives throwing the football. Avery Johnson, if you just look at the pure stats of the game, you thought he was, hey, he had a really good game. But you could tell just in the game, he hasn't made that big leap that we were kind of referring to in the season preview, at least in that first game, where it's like take it to the next level for this Kansas State offense. Now, of course, the thing that really hurt them was the first punt of the game. They lost their star running back, Dylan Edwards. Lost him to an injury on that turf, fumbling the punt and then hurting his ankle on it. So that was something that really kind of messed up their ground game because Dylan Edwards, we remember him, he's been a really solid running back there, but not having him on the field kind of hurt their offense a bit. But you talked about it. The way the first half went, it was so ugly. Then the second half, it was like once one team scored, it's like, hold up, let me get my own here.
Yep.
Long touchdown pass, bet 60-yarder, watch this. To me, the thing the game came down to, though, was that 4th and 1 for Kansas State at their own 30. In a normal Big 12 game, in the shootout that it is, I get going for it there. Absolutely have no issue with that. But in that kind of game with as low scoring as it was, to me, you punt the football and trust your defense there. Now, listen, I know that they scored a touchdown. Iowa State didn't. They scored right after, and then that really kind of some people cancel out. But to me, if you punt the ball with 8:29 left, you pin them in their own territory. You get better field position again, and you get another chance with it only being a 17-14 game rather than a 24-14 game. So I think that call is the thing that ultimately was the difference in the game. Shout out to the officials for overruling that touchdown to give me my first bet of the week win. About
Yeah.
as close as you can get to a bet losing. I was literally sitting there being like, he's short, right? He's short. Yeah, yes, he's short. And then at first I was like, they could literally just kneel out the clock. And I was like, no team ever does that though. So they'll probably score. And then they kneeled it out. It was fantastic. But two heavyweights in the Big 12. Like I said, these are the top. If these are two of the best, we're in for another chaotic year in the Big 12.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you hit it right, nail right on the head here. I've got it right here on my notes. The big thing to me in this game was lots of going for it on 4th down, and that's where I think this game was really decided. 7 total attempts going for it on 4th down in this game. Iowa State went 3 for 3 on fourth down. When they went for it, they got it. Kansas State, ugly 1 for 4.
Mm,
Um, we're talking about giving up prime field position here. And look, I get it. It is the Big 12, and like you said, in a regular Big 12 game, that aggressiveness is going to help you with these kind of high-powered, super-powered offenses. But look, in this game with the conditions, it was balancing teams out in this game. I agree with you. I think a few more punts, especially on the Kansas State side of things, probably could have helped them in this game. But look, we saw these two quarterbacks. They battled, they dueled, and look, they neither was perfect, but we saw flashes from these guys. And look, if they can capitalize on these moments, I think, like you said, on the stat sheet, Avery Johnson didn't have a bad game, but it's like the big moments that we were waiting
right,
for him to have,
right.
he didn't have. And that's just a first game in strange conditions and a new offense. So maybe things will change up for Avery Johnson. With Rocco Becht, he made a lot of big plays, but I think consistency for this guy. We're talking about two guys who really stand to gain in kind of I won't necessarily say a weak quarterback class for this NFL draft, but it kind of depends on who goes and who
Like a
doesn't.
wide open one. I get what you mean by that.
Yeah.
They're like so varied in where they could go. I get what
It's
you
like
mean.
Drew Aller is the one guy I can think that's maybe like a guaranteed kind of go, but it's like you think about Arch Manning and kind of the potential that he has and a lot of the attention that he's going to garner. Sure, maybe if he comes out and capitalizes and wins a Heisman and a national championship this year, he might forego the rest of his college eligibility for the draft. But otherwise, I would think that he might stay
Right.
and go another year. And so with that kind of like question marks and being at Kansas State and Iowa State respectively, as good as they've been, a chance to turn in a good year here and be a first round pick, even though both of these guys are redshirt juniors, I think would be a huge opportunity for both of these guys to go ahead and turn into first round picks this year. And I think we saw flashes of that, but it's going to be the consistency from Rocco Becht, and it's going to be the big play makes from Avery Johnson. Sure, you can have a good completion percentage. Sure, you can get over 200 yards, and sure, you can throw a couple touchdowns. But there were some big moments and some still just not seeing that like when to throw it away,
Right.
when to take off. He's still a little too slow with his processing. But he is a young quarterback, not a senior yet. So a lot of opportunities and only a second full-time year as the starter if he
Right.
does finish the full year as the starter. So a lot of room to grow. But it was an interesting chance to kind of see a glimpse at some of the guys who are going to be, in that conversation of, top quarterbacks in this year's class and in college football this year.
Yeah, it really was. And also, I will say for both these sides, the good news for both of them, especially for Kansas State, is you really look at the schedule on paper right now. And of course, we're in the preseason, so this is all going to change from when I say it. But right now, you look at their schedule, neither of them play a ranked opponent again until November. So you think about it, I mean, there's possibly a chance where both of them continue to build on it from this game, but the difference in one of them getting in and the other being left out could be this game that was played all the way in week 0. So I think it was a great game. But like I said, Iowa State's the one that I think got the big deal, obviously winning this game. They get Arizona State and BYU in Ames this year. Arizona State and BYU got to come play at Iowa State. And they don't got to play Utah, Texas Tech, or Baylor in the regular season. So Iowa State with this, it kind of feels like that. I don't want to say they're already in the driver's seat to get to the Big 12 championship, but it kind of feels like that.
Yeah, and don't want to say in the driver's seat. Obviously, it's week 0, but
Yeah.
I'll go with you. Look, this was a big opportunity to kind of show who the top dog in the Big 12 was going to be this year. This is a good chance to get that attention and show who you are early. And they came out and they've risen to the challenge. Right now, that's the mark everybody has to beat. And unfortunately, for a lot of these teams, you really won't get a chance to beat that mark until much later into the season. This is absolutely a great start in Big 12 play to start out the season. But next, let's talk about a game that we did not talk about in our Week 0 preview, but maybe we should have. This is UNLV barely surviving against Idaho State, 38-31. UNLV scores 2 touchdowns in the final 11 minutes of this game to end up winning it. But look, this was a back and forth, up and down battle for both sides. Look, Idaho State put up a bigger fight than I had assumed, which is why I didn't even cover this game. I thought Dan Mullen, we're both pretty high on UNLV. Let's leave Idaho State out of this one, out of this one, save us a little time. But look, this ended up being a great game on the Mountain West app. So if you want to watch this ball game and back and forth, UNLV gets the job done though. But look, this was not the I don't know, highest start that Dan Mullen maybe would have wanted in his UNLV tenure.
No, offense was great. The offense was explosive. There was big
Yes.
run plays. I mean, shoot, their running back Jaden Thomas had 147 yards rushing on only 10 carries. And so the explosive plays were there down the field. Offense was amazing. But holy cow, the defense was awful. Like that was Alex Grinch USC level bad defense in that game. Um, they were getting turnovers late in the fourth quarter that ultimately helped them win the game. But besides, I mean, Idaho State was going right down the field. I said it in a Twitter, I think I saw 3 or 4 plays down the field where there is not a single UNLV defender around an Idaho State receiver. I'm like, how does this happen not once, not twice, but 3 times in a game against Idaho State? And not only that, Idaho State threw the ball well, just turned it over. The running game was ridiculous for them in this game. I know the total number might not look like it, but the running average per game, I mean, they averaged 6.4 yards a carry in this game running the football. So the takeaway is the defense for UNLV. The offense is going to be really good. It looked like it was going to be good. Colandria looks like he should be the guy, at least in my opinion, from what I saw. Um, but they got to get this defense figured out. But I will say a thought popped in my head, Austin. I was curious what you think. I talked about how bad this run defense looked. Imagine Ashton Genty against this run defense last year. How many over under how many yards
Yeah.
Ashton Genty has against them?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about ballpark 250 is like the over in this game. Yeah, this was not exactly like you said. The offense was there, and the offensive numbers look really great. But the offensive numbers also looked really, really great for this Idaho State team. And so absolutely, I think hats off to them and everything they were able to do in this ball game. But let's take a glance now at our next game. Uh, and this was a game that I was totally dead wrong on. So, but it was fun to see maybe a return to form for this team. But Kansas getting the job done here against Fresno State, 31-7. And to me, this was a return to form for Jalen Daniels
Mhm.
after kind of an up and down last season. A guy I know we've kind of been high on the last couple of years here at the Bold Take podcast. I picked Kansas to win the Big 12 last year, and that did not happen. But this year they get off to a much different start than last year. Jane Daniels goes 176 yards passing, which know isn't a lot, but 18 for 20
Yeah, I was about to say that's the key
passing
part.
attempts and 3 touchdowns. So, we're talking about turning, you know, a sixth of his passes or touchdowns in this game, his completed passes. I think this was a great start. He did a good job on the ground too, and he kind of led this team that I feel like offensively is weaker than it was last year. No Devin
Yes.
Neal this year to kind of anchor the running back room, and so he came out and he led this team obviously against a different looking Fresno State team than we've seen the last couple of years, but still a team I thought was going to give them a run. And Jalen Daniels kind of put his foot down and said, "No, we're going to be a different team this year, and I'm going to be a better player." And he absolutely was, and so that was just an incredible performance to me.
Yeah, it was to me too. And also, like that's the thing is you look at the stats, you're like, only 176 yards, but you look at 18 to 20. Here's the thing that's impressive to me: 8.8 yards per average throwing the ball down the field. That's the one thing I love. He's attacking down the field. And like we talked about, Kansas got off to what was it? It was a 1-6 start, 1-5, 1-6 start last year. And
Yeah,
the way they ended the year, we're like, where was this all season long? Now, again, they got an easy one this Friday against, I believe it's Wagner. And then the next week they play at Missouri. So that could be a test early on to see if they're ready to take that next step. We thought they were last year, and we saw very early on they weren't ready. Now, if they win this game against Wagner, can they go into Missouri and get a surprising kind of statement win to kind of show, hey, this year we're not just going to be a finisher to strong to end the year. We're going to be strong the entire year. So yeah, good performance for them on offense and on defense. I thought EJ Warner did solid early on, but the turnovers are what kind of piled it up for Fresno State with his interception. So unfortunate there, but Kansas, a solid performance in this game for Jalen Daniels. Nothing amazing, but it was something good to see for that Kansas offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we look at Western Kentucky getting off to a big start this season. Uh, they get a big win over conference opponent in Sam Houston. And it's a 41-24 victory, a great game. And look, the offense, the passing offense looked
Mm-hmm.
explosive, and it looked like the Western Kentucky we're
Yes,
familiar
it
with. I know we
did.
kind of talked about a little bit of a different look for this team, and maybe things were going to be a little bit different. But for this game against Sam Houston, you've got Maverick McAvoy, all name team, 33 for 51, 401 yards and 4 touchdowns. If this offense can be this explosive, look out, opposing secondaries, because they're going to look to air it out a lot this season.
Yeah, hand up. Yeah, Maverick. Like I said, that name is an all name team, if you know what we're referring to. Talk to me, Goose, if you know what that's from.
Yes.
But no, it was a great performance by Maverick. They were throwing the ball. I mean, it looked like the Western Kentucky offense I had seen all the time. And that was something I wondered. Their OC went to be the head coach of Florida Atlantic, took their quarterback with them. How is this going to look? Throwing the ball looked great. The only thing was a couple turnovers here and there that kind of let Sam Houston hang around this game really longer than they should have been, if I'm being honest with you. They were all right, I guess, with Sam Houston. Shout out their quarterback, Hunter Watson. He had like a 55-yard touchdown run in the game for them. So it was a shootout with the points. But yeah, that looked like the Western Kentucky of old. And, maybe someone who didn't pick them to make the Conference USA championship might be wrong here if this offense is as explosive
Yeah.
as it looks to be early on here in week zero.
Yeah, and I won't start to toot my own horn too early here, but it does look good to start your conference schedule in week zero and have this kind of big performance. To me, that's a really great game for Western Kentucky and a really good start to what could be a big season for them in a new kind of look. But with our final game here that we're going to talk about from week zero, Hawaii takes down Stanford 23-20 in a thrilling game to cap off week zero. Look, back and forth. We saw kind of a new look to Stanford, a new, more maybe confident team than we've seen the last couple of years. Uh, but Hawaii stands up to the challenge, answers the bell, and gets the job done in this game. And they looked good doing it.
Yeah, I just want to say Stanford, like we said whenever we were doing the season preview, we think they're heading in the right direction. What Andrew Luck's got going there is very good. He's traveling with the team everywhere. It looked like the Stanford offense of when Andrew Luck was there. Hard nose running, play action, I formation, basic football that was winning you games there. They just don't have the talent level there yet. So I think when they get the talent level there, it could be a different story with it. But overall in the game, Hawaii I thought was great in the game, especially Micah Alejado. Alejado, I think is how you pronounce the name. I'm not even going to attempt to try to act like I know how to pronounce names. If you know, you know. But he was really good. And some of you remember he got sacked in this game and he fell awkward on that leg. And I was like, no, Hawaii was going to win this game. And now the star quarterback's out. Are you kidding me? He comes back out and pulls bringing Willis Reed or Byron Leftwich, I guess, if you want to do the college football version, with Byron Leftwich playing on a broken leg and his lineman having to carry him down the field, if you've seen that clip. But he did a great job in those final few drives, getting them field goal to tie the game and then getting them range for the walk-off field goal. For their kicker, who I will not even attempt to say his name because, oh my gosh, when the announcer said it, I was like, but he's a great story. He's a guy that learned how to kick off of YouTube. That's how he learned to kick. And literally, he said in his post-game press conference he was more nervous about speaking English at the post-game press conference than he was about that field goal. So it's a
Wow.
fun story. It's a fun story there for Hawaii to get the win. Timmy Chang's has been looking for that big win since he got hired there. Pretty solid win for them to get it done here. And for Stanford, I'm gonna be honest with you, we might be on 0 and 12 watch for Stanford this year. Again, I think they're heading in the right direction, but we might be on 0 and 12 watch with Stanford in the ACC this year.
Yeah, and it's no disrespect to Hawaii because kind of like me and you talked about at the beginning of the season, you just looking at this team through Dynasty, they might have a pretty good schedule that kind of favors
Hmm.
Hawaii as the season goes on, especially winning this game now. But yeah, this was probably one of the easier games on the Stanford schedule. One of the games that could give you an opportunity to get a little momentum. And like you said, instead, we're looking at a team that's kind of on 0 and 12 watch now, even though they were played so close in this game. But I'm going to take a crack at the kicker's last name here just for you fans at home. Matsuzawa is how I'm going to pronounce it.
I can roll with that.
Kensei Matsuzawa.
Yeah, you can. I'll roll with
Um,
it. I like it. I like the attempt. You're a
so
stronger man than I am because I was not going to attempt that.
So hats off there. But let's spin it into our team of the week now. Look, we've talked about these games. Now it's time to have our team of the weeks go. And so first, I'll let you give me your top five for teams of the week.
So yeah, glad to have this back again. Number five, I got Western Kentucky here. Not that their win wasn't impressive enough to move up higher, but obviously there's some other games on here that we're going to talk about more. I was impressed with, but solid performance for the first game of the year. Number four, I got Kansas. A really solid performance again in their first game back at their home stadium, which apparently I learned is technically not completed. They're actually going to tear down the other side and rebuild that next year. So I really don't know how that's going to work for the Kansas football
Wow.
team. But the other side of the stadium looked really good. Number three is one that I'm sure this man's going to talk about with it. Nichols State going out upsetting number four Incarnate Word in a major upset. I think the final score is 20-6. I think it included a pick six in the game from a certain player that I think we might be talking about a little bit later here. But a great win for Nichols State there. Number two, I put Iowa State. Look, this was the matchup we were all going to watch. Ranked matchup head to head. They got the job done at the end of the day, had some guts, and like you talked about, converted on fourth down so many times, helped seal the win. But number one, ladies and gentlemen, for a man whose first dynasty was the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, did you really think if they won this game, I was not going to put them at number one? Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, number one on my teams of the week. Easy pick for me. What about you?
Yeah, so starting at number five, I put the Kansas Jayhawks here. Look, I was impressed with this team, and they kind of overcame my expectations. Um, but a good game, a good win. Don't want to get too ahead of myself, kind of starting to celebrate maybe the Kansas and Jalen Daniels revival. But I like this game, like this team. Big win for them to open up the season. Uh, then at number four, I've got the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Look, another team that played extremely well, got the job done, and in a big win against a Power Four opponent, maybe the worst team in Power Four right now in Stanford, but still a Power Four win nonetheless. And it was a great game for them. At number three, I went with Western Kentucky. Look, talk about starting that conference schedule off right. This is the stuff that we talk about. You play these games in week zero. Look, conference games already mean a ton. You get one started this early. If you can get a win, that puts you ahead of the eight ball for the rest of the season. You've got one conference win out of the way. Same thing with Iowa State at number two, but a ranked win too. Ranked win, neutral site, conference game, get the job done. You put yourself up there already. Teams have to start saying, hey, maybe this team is going to be playing in the college football playoff this year. Uh, and then at number one, I went with Nicholls State. I thought this was a great story to kind of highlight playing against number four Incarnate Word and coming out here and getting the big time upset in a game that wasn't particularly close
No.
either. Nicholls State really dominated this game from bell to bell, and just ran away with it. So this was an absolute treat to kind of watch in the middle of the day between all the other FBS action we had going to catch this awesome FCS game where we got to see a huge upset for a top five team in week zero. I think really sets an incredible tone for them. Um, but with that being said, we take a look at Instagram where our polls were posted. Starting next week, Twitter will be back. The Bold Take podcast will have the Twitter account up and running with polls again. So make sure to vote for your favorite players there as well as on Instagram. But just for this week, it's just Instagram polls. But on Instagram, we had Hawaii and Iowa State both winning in a respective poll. And that set us up for our overall to be the Iowa State Cyclones
Mm.
kicking the season off with a ranked win in the Big 12 in Dublin, and they're our team of the week this week.
I mean, let's just say it is. Was it pretty game? Probably not for some, but it was a ranked win to start the season in a game where everyone was going to be watching. So very deserving of our first team of the week for the year.
Absolutely. And it was a great way to kick off the start to this season. Um, so now that takes us into our players of the week. And go ahead and give me your top five here.
So number 5, I got Rocco Becht here. Listen, again, not the best game from him, but at the end of the day, he made some big throws whenever they needed to. Two of their touchdowns, he threw passes right on the money. One of those to take the lead in the second half was one of the best throws I've seen of the season so far, if you know what I mean there. But number 4, I got Ty Marsh, corner from Nichols, had the pick six in the game. You know me, ladies and gentlemen. You know we love to get defensive players in on these player of the week performances. So we had to get one in here. Number 3, Maverick. You know, talk to me, Goose from Western Kentucky. Phenomenal performance by him in this game, throwing the football. Like I said, the Western Kentucky air raid offense was on point in this game with his great performance. Number 2, I had Jaden Thomas, the running back from UNLV. Listen, I talk about UNLV. The run game was great. I think they had 300 yards rushing in this game. 10 carries, 147 yards. Every time this guy touched the ball, it felt like he could take it to the house. So, love to get him involved. But number 1, listen, the stats weren't amazing. But again, you saw the heart and fight after coming back from the injury, limping and leading his team to an upset over a Power 4 conference team. Micah Alejado from Hawaii. The announcer kept on saying, the chosen one. Colt Brennan would like to have a word with you, I think personally on that. But great performance for him to help lead Hawaii to their upset over Stanford. He's my number 1 player of the week.
All right, all right. I like that list. A lot of names on there that were fun to watch this week. But at number 5, I wanted to kick it off with Jalen Daniels and kind of talked about his stat line earlier. As far as the passing yards, again, not big, flashy. 176 isn't huge numbers, but three passing touchdowns is a great game. 18 for 20, a lot more accurate than he was at a lot of points last season. Just love to see the start from one of my favorite players in recent college football memory. To see him start off and kind of playing back, at that same level of play is super fun to watch, especially for a guy you think about had some seasons where he could have cashed in and hit the transfer
Mm-hmm.
portal and gone somewhere else. He stayed at Kansas this whole time. And so you like to see that kind of performance out of this guy. At number 4, I went with a running back in this game who didn't win. I went with Dason Brooks out of Idaho State. I wanted to give a little bit of a nod somewhere to Idaho State in either team of the week or player of the week, and ultimately I landed on player of the week because wow, this stat line is incredible. 18
Yes.
carries, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. This guy did everything he possibly could to kind of will his team into the game. And especially when you look at starting quarterback Jordan Cook, 380 yards on 50 pass attempts, one interception and one touchdown and 3 interceptions. Just a game. But Dason Brooks did everything he could with those 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. Felt like it was worthy of a nod. Guy you talked about, Ty Marsh at number 3 from Nicholls State. Look, Nicholls State forced a lot of turnovers, had a lot of interceptions in this game against Incarnate Word. So I just wanted to go with one of the guys that had the biggest, flashiest play, and that was the pick six from Ty Marsh. So to give him the nod here and really kind of honor that entire secondary for Nicholls State in a huge game. So hats off to Ty Marsh and Nicholls State. And then at number two, I went with Rocco Becht. Again, not the biggest, flashiest numbers, but he made a lot of big plays when this team needed him to, and helped navigate this team to a win. But at number one, I love the big passing numbers. I love the touchdowns. I love how many times this guy threw the ball. Got to go with Maverick McAvoy here, the quarterback out of Western Kentucky. He threw the ball a lot. He threw for a lot of yards and he threw for a lot of touchdowns. This is a just huge stat line to drop in week one to go ahead and put yourself in that early passing yards leader role here in the NCAA. But when we look at that list, we go ahead and we go to social media and see on Instagram where you guys voted. And Maverick McAvoy and Jaden Thomas pulling in votes via the polls. That's where the fans were leaning with this one. And that puts our overall winner as Maverick McAvoy, QB out of
Yeah.
Western Kentucky to kick off the season. So you'll love to see that, an all-time name to start off the year.
Yep. If we ever created an all names team to end the year, I think we know who the quarterback is going to be of that team. At least an early favorite here for that
Yeah.
award. Yeah, congrats to him for that. Always love the week zero when we've done these awards because last year it was a fun one as well. And we get these guys involved that maybe you don't see because obviously there's the bigger games going on. So love getting it for Maverick right here for Western Kentucky. You love to see it.
Yeah, super awesome to see. Like you said, these early season, especially week zero, when you don't have a bunch of the power forward teams playing, and you get to see some of these smaller scale programs in the bright lights, it gets us a chance to kind of highlight some of these bigger performances in these games. But let's go ahead and start looking at week one. Enough talk about week zero. It's time to go
Yeah.
ahead and look at week one and the big slate that we've got going. So we're going to start with our week one preview. Just to kind of preface this, if you're new here with the preview, we're just going to look at some games, kind of talk about them. And then obviously after our preview, we save the biggest and best matchups for our game picks where we can really get into it. And that goes towards our final records at the end of the year for our game picks and our bets of the week that we'll talk about in a minute. So when you hear me go through this first list, before you head to the comments and start saying, oh, you missed three top 10 matchups. No, that comes after this segment.
We're gonna that's gonna be in the game picks, ladies and gentlemen. You think we're gonna miss three top 10 matchups? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely not. So have some faith in me, have some hope. But that's just for those of you that are new around here. But starting with our week one preview on Thursday, we've got three games that I want to highlight here. Number one, we've got number 25 Boise State facing off against the University of South Florida. Look, right away in this game, it's going to be a quick test. Look, it's not the biggest, toughest challenge for Boise State, but no Ashton Jeanty this year.
Hmm.
Maddox Madsen back again at the helm of this team. So is he going to be able to come up, and is this offense going to step up and be more reliant on Maddox Madsen, who had some highs and some lows in that college football playoff game against Penn State where he trusted to throw the ball a little bit more? Or have they found their next Ashton Jeanty or try to create their next Ashton Jeanty with a new running back? And then you look at USF. This is a program that's been trending up the last couple of years with quarterback Byron Brown, who's had a good couple of years. You think about what 2 years ago, nearly slayed the beast that was Nick Saban in Alabama. So it'll be interesting to see this kind of clash. It's not a huge test for Boise State, but still a team that they can't take lightly starting off the season on Thursday.
No, I'm looking forward to this game. I love that it's at 4:30 on Thursday. I don't know why it's at 4:30 on Thursday,
Yeah.
but I'm looking forward to that. It'll be before 5 o'clock. Again, for those of you who did not see our season preview, number one, why haven't you looked at it? I even, for those of you who haven't been over to the channel in a bit, even made small videos posted to the channel just for those segments for you. So you would know I am high on South Florida, have them winning the American. So this is a big moment for them too. And you mentioned it for Boise State. What's the offense going to look like in this game? These are two teams that are going to be vying, I think, for that group of five spot in the playoffs. So a huge one here in week zero. And again, in week one, you can see the spread on this game has started at Boise State being a 10 plus point favorite all the way down to 6.5 now. It's been moving down a lot this week. So that tells you a lot of what you could see, and I think it's going to be a closer game than some people realize for South Florida. So absolutely, this is a fun one to kick off all the festivities for the week one weekend because, like I said, to me, this is a one where the winner of this game could be the one that gets in the playoff at the end of the year.
Absolutely. Could be big bragging rights if these two teams are fighting for a spot in the playoff down at the end of the season. Then another game to highlight here, Nebraska versus Cincinnati.
Mhm.
With Nebraska, again, another team that's kind of trended up the last couple of years with Matt Rule at the helm. And Cincinnati had a so-so season last year. But look, you're in the Big 12, always chaotic. This is a chance to get a win against a Big 10 program in Nebraska and a team that maybe has a little bit of hype behind them for what they could do this season with Dylan Raiola another year at the helm. Good chance to maybe kind of make your mark, even though this isn't any ranked teams playing in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And again, plus let's factor in this is year three for Matt Rule at Nebraska. For those of you who don't know, year three at Temple, they were a top 25 program, won the American. Year three at Baylor, they were a top 10 team the whole year, played in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. So year three for Matt Rule in college, at least those two stops, has been a big year. So that's why some people are a lot higher on Nebraska with that. This is an odd game mainly because this is going to be played at Arrowhead Stadium. I don't know why. I really don't know why, but it's interesting just for that factor, I guess, with it. How's Dylan Raiola going to look in year two? That'll be a key, I think, to me. Cincinnati's an odd one because I think they have some talent. Tawee Walker, the running back from Wisconsin, who had a solid year last year, he's now the running back one at Cincinnati now. Plus Scott Satterfield. I kind of feel like this is a make or break year for him at Cincinnati, where if they're not good, they'll probably leave making a coaching change. So I'm curious how this game works out. I don't know why it's being played at Arrowhead, but Nebraska, we'll see if year three for Matt Rule, that trend will continue, and that's going to start on Thursday night with a fun one.
Yeah, and then the final game we're going to look at from Thursday night, Miami of Ohio, the real Miami, taking on Wisconsin. To me, we're seeing a team that's always at kind of the helm of the MAC, one of the top teams in this conference, getting their chance to start their season off early. And look, they're going to face off against a team in Wisconsin who I picked to be the worst team in the Big Ten this year. I think that could very well be true. But look, this is going to be a test. This is one of the best teams you can play outside of the Power Four. And so you're going to get a chance early in the season for Wisconsin to see what they're made of. Are they going to prove me wrong? Are they going to be a team that can maybe compete in the Big Ten and win this game? Or are they a team that can't even win against a MAC program?
Yeah, I really don't know about talent wise there for Wisconsin. Miami, Ohio, we know what they bring defensively, and that's why I think this game is going to probably be a low scoring affair. Um, I think that it comes down again to which offense really has a spark. I don't want to say either offense is just not good, but neither offense is truly elite of the elite. So I'm curious how it's going to go. I would probably, if I had to pick, I'd probably give an edge to Miami, Ohio in this game. So we'll see what happens here. But I'm kind of with you on Wisconsin. I don't know what to expect. Them being a 17-point favorite in this game is kind of bizarre to me. So we're going to see what happens here in Wisconsin. But I would not be shocked if Miami, Ohio pulled off the shocker on Thursday night. And just one more game I want to highlight Thursday night. UCA taking on Missouri. For those of you who know this, that maybe from Bologna, tune in. Don't know the official thing yet, but there's possibility we could be looking at Bologna quarterback Austin Myers starting for UCA, being the starter this year for them. I know there's a quarterback battle going on there, so that's one to keep an eye on. But playing Missouri, who I've heard is going to play two quarterbacks in that game. So that's
Wow.
another fun one to go along with those ones on Thursday night.
Yeah, that could be a blast to watch. So make sure to tune in for that one. Didn't realize the big moment that we could potentially have for a little bit of Bologna there. So that'll be awesome to watch. I'll definitely be tuning in now. Um, then on Friday, we kick it off with Auburn versus Baylor. And I just thought this was kind of an interesting and fun
Yeah.
matchup to maybe see from these two teams. A little bit of a new look for Auburn and kind of Baylor. You talk about Dave Aranda, kind of been on the hot seat the last few years. Um, is it time to turn around the Baylor program, or maybe is it time to find a new head coach? It's going to be off to a great start against an SEC opponent who looks primed to make a rise this year in the SEC.
See, Auburn, I don't know what to think about them. They've had the weird week where, they claim the four national championships. Can Arkansas just go and claim national championships if they want to? I don't see why we can't
Yeah.
do that as well. Some of them I did agree with them on with them, but this is probably, I don't want to say this is the best matchup, but this is the matchup I look at as like this could be a really good matchup. It's a weird game with it. Auburn, I've
Yeah.
heard, could play three or four quarterbacks in this game. I don't know what to expect in this game from them. And Baylor, listen, I expect them to be really good. They had a strong season last year, a strong finish. A lot of guys come back. Sawyer Robertson, Bryson Washington, one of the more underrated running backs in the country. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to do at home here. I'd probably give the edge to Baylor at home just because I still think there's some uncertainty with Auburn. But this can be a really fun game on Friday night. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, especially with a certain other one that's going to be going on in the Big 12 as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the game we're about to talk about here. Georgia Tech taking on Colorado. I think this is going to be this is a really fun matchup. You're talking the
Hmm.
ACC, Big 12. Um, Colorado and Georgia Tech, a very just kind of another strange matchup.
Yeah.
You don't really think about this when you're making schedules, but look, with Georgia Tech, like you said, this is a team you kind of like to be a bit different this year, and the consistency over the last couple of years and having a lot of those same faces come back for another year of football could be really awesome to watch. And for Colorado, kind of a reset. No Travis Hunter, no Shadur Sanders, no Shiloh Sanders, and bringing in of Kadon Salter. You know, maybe a less talented team from last year, but also a lot less distractions. We might really see what Coach Prime is capable of doing in the FBS, in the Power Four. Without all those distractions, we can actually see him coach a team. Because again, we talked about it in our season preview. I think it was really hard to ascertain like how good of a coach Deion Sanders really is
Right, right.
at this level of football because when quarterbacks make some of the mistakes Shadur Sanders makes, usually they get benched when they're not your son. When
Hmm.
Shiloh Sanders gets a game altering penalty, 15-yard personal foul penalty at the end of every game that
Yeah.
completely changes the landscape of the game, they usually don't continue to start and play at the end of games for coaches when they're not your son. And look, I get it, certain loyalty there. I'm not gonna pretend like I wouldn't do the same thing
Right,
because I don't
right.
know. I'm
Yeah.
not in that opportunity. But now we're gonna get to see him make a lot less biased coaching decisions, and maybe we could see the team kind of benefit from that.
Yeah, again, like I said in the season previous, probably be the most together team probably Dion's had at Colorado since he's been there. This is a game I look at as kind of being a low scoring affair, kind of two really strong physical teams in the trenches. I think this could be a low scoring affair when it comes down to that. I'd probably lean at the end of the day on the better quarterback and the more consistent system offensively, which would be Georgia Tech in this game. But again, like you mentioned, this is a fun kind of odd matchup to have on a Friday night. Really, just an odd matchup in general, like Auburn and Baylor. But this is going to be fun. I'm intrigued to see what Colorado is going to be this year. I'm going to be watching this game. Even if they lose, I can walk out and being like, you know what? That's going to be a pretty solid football team this year. Or is it going to be a, kind of collapse kind of year? So we'll see what happens there. But that's another fun one to kick off on Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final game to kind of look at on Friday here for me is a look at two teams who are looking to have a little bit of a better start to week one than they did in week zero. That's UNLV versus Sam Houston. Obviously, UNLV did get the win, but like we talked about, their defense couldn't really
Mhm.
make any stops. And for Sam Houston, look, really got the doors just absolutely blown off. Talk about that air raid we saw from Western Kentucky really blew them out. So both of these teams kind of looking to rebound and regain some footing and have a little bit of a better game here in week one as we start this second week of the season for these teams.
All I gotta say is take the over on this game. We're gonna see a lot of points in
Yeah.
this game, I think. Listen, I'm interested to see what the UNLV defense can do to improve from whatever it was last week defensively. And same with Sam Houston. Look, Sam Houston got beat through the air last week. I talked about UNLV had 300 yards rushing in the game last week, so we might find out, can the Sam Houston defense stop the run? Or are they just going to be a defense that you might see them give up 50 points the whole year with that? So this is an intriguing kind of like late night one on Friday night, I would say so. But if there's anything I will say is when in doubt, if you want money on this game, take the over is all I'll say for it. There's going to be a lot of points scored, I think.
Yeah. Then the first game I want to highlight on Saturday is Arkansas versus Alabama A&M. And really the big thing looking at in this game, as far as we're concerned, is what are the Hogs going to look like this year? Lost a lot of guys to either the NFL draft or the transfer portal. It's really a big kind of shift, new look team. And how does Taylor Green look at his second year in the SEC? We can't make too many assumptions about the game versus Alabama A&M because if you go back a year, we saw how explosive this offense can be against a UAPB. But
Mm-hmm.
then the rest of the season, they really never came
Yep.
close to being that good of an offense. So maybe see kind of a little bit of how this team looks. Won't form any complete opinions, but just to see how well this team's going to play together after, a really complete shift to this roster.
Yeah, obviously the big things to me is going to be the receiving room. Whole new receiver room. I'm still trying to figure out some of the names in the receiving room for the season, but I think if the offense early on relies on the ground game, that should help them a lot early in the season. I think the defense should be pretty solid. There's just still a bunch of question marks about talent wise there as a whole. Um, Look, I'll be honest with you, going into the season, expectations are quite low. I
Yeah.
virtually have no expectations, um, just so I can't be hurt by myself and my own expectations I would have for the team. So I look forward to seeing what they do in this game offensively. I just want them to go out and kind of do what the UAPB wants. Just go out and dominate. Don't even put any thoughts in any people's heads like, yo, this team might kind of suck this year. Just like don't give
Yeah.
anyone that thought in this game. Just go out, blow out Alabama A&M so fans can be like, you know what? Maybe we can have a chance against these teams. And then it happens after they play them. But that's the big thing to me. If you focus on the run game early and try to get comfortable with these receivers as the game goes along, then maybe that helps build something on the offensive end for the rest of the year for Bobby. Plus, year two in the system for Taylor Green with Bobby Petrino. I look forward to seeing how that works out.
Agreed. Taylor Green really is kind of going to be the tail of this season for this team, in my opinion. He's
Mm-hmm.
an elite talent. He really is a great player. It's going to be about, can they keep this guy protected? Look, it's going to be a lot of the same questions we've had basically every year KJ Jefferson was at Arkansas. Can you keep this guy protected? Give him an opportunity to make some plays because athletically, we know how gifted this guy is. But if he's constantly being sacked, chance for injury goes up, and
Yep.
obviously you can't make any plays if you're getting sacked. He's got to be a little bit better about turning the ball over this year, though. He did
Yeah.
give the ball away quite a bit, but we know how talented he is. So obviously he's got to come through and really step up. But I think he's make or break this season for this team. How good Taylor Green is this year is how good the Arkansas Razorbacks are going to be.
Absolutely.
Um, then we pan over to another fun matchup, Syracuse versus number 24 Tennessee. And this is going to be absolutely exciting to me. You're going to see a Syracuse team that was fun to watch in the ACC last year. Starting quarterback officially announced Steve Angeli, the former Notre Dame quarterback,
Yep.
who had some big moments in the college football playoff, going to start for Syracuse, facing off against a Tennessee team. And Joey Aguilar, I think, is officially the starter for this team.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see these two teams tested early. I kind of like this game. I think Tennessee's the better team in this game. But I'm interested to see how Syracuse performs because just knowing what I saw out of Steve Angeli last year, super talented quarterback, a guy I would not be disappointed to have starting the season for me facing off against a college football playoff team. When you see kind of the way he played against those teams that made the college football playoff last year, like Penn State, the way he closed out that first half for Notre Dame, making the big throws. This is a guy who's not scared of the big moment against the big teams.
No, no, it's not. This game as a whole, I'm intrigued by. I get Tennessee being a 14-point favorite, but I really don't know what to expect from either side. A lot of the talent from these two really impressive teams last year are gone by the wayside in the NFL now. So I really don't know what to expect in this game. I do expect, if anything, I do expect the Tennessee offense to be really good. You talked about Steve Angeli being able to make some of the big plays. I'm interested. Can he perform as well as Kyle McCord did in that offense last year? Uh, I wouldn't be shocked if this is a high scoring affair, as both defenses I still think aren't, you know, the best. But again, so many pieces lost for both sides. I really don't know what to expect in this game. Anything that happens wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't be shocked if Syracuse won outright.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'll say, can he be as good as Kyle McCord was and make some of those big plays? I don't know. I think he does have a big rocket arm, and I think he's a little bit more mobile than Kyle McCord was, which may kind of lend itself to him a little bit. But I think overall, if they give him the same amount of passing opportunities, we could see Kyle McCord maybe a little bit less yards, a little bit less touchdowns per game than Kyle McCord. But I think you're going to see turnovers reduced big time with Steve Angeli at quarterback, which just I think is going to help reduce obviously the other team's opportunities. Then we've got number 8 Alabama facing off against the Florida State Seminoles. This could be an interesting matchup because I'm not really sure how to feel about this Alabama team. I think obviously they've got the talent to be one of the better teams in the country, but it'll be interesting to see what this team looks like in a second year with Kalen DeBoer. Uh, and then for Florida State, not a good year last year, but it's Florida State. They recruit well. They've got good transfers coming in. Can Mike Norvell get this team back on track and maybe have an early season upset against an SEC team to say, hey, I've got this team under control and we're back and ready to compete again?
Again, I'm high on Alabama this year. I've got them winning the SEC, so I think they have a good chance. But let's also remember Tommy Castellanos, the new quarterback of Florida State. He has done a lot of talking this offseason about this
Yes.
matchup. He has done a lot of talking, so I'm interested to see. Look, like I said, there are some question marks still about Bama. What's it going to be for Kalen DeBoer in year two? Again, I think their defense should be really good. It comes down to what Ty Simpson can do. Again, like I said, if they get the ball in the hands of the skilled players in Alabama, he'll be fine, and that offense will be fine for them. Uh, so I'm more interested to see what is Florida State's offense going to look like. Because let's remember, Gus Malzahn's the OC at Florida State now. It was a big hire that happened with Tommy Castellanos. We know what his offense has been able to do in the SEC. It's a run-heavy offense, up-tempo. We know what that can do. I'm interested to see how well this Alabama defense is going to go against that. So that's a big test that I'm looking forward to seeing in this game.
And then finally, the game from Saturday, I really was interested to talk about Montana State versus number 7 Oregon. Look, my big talking points here is last year, early in the season, Montana State got a big win against an FBS opponent, a team that probably should have made the move up to the FBS by this point. But also, you look at Oregon last year, week 1, faced off against Boise State and won by walk-off field goal. So I'm not saying Montana State will win this game, and I'm not saying Oregon's a bad team, but I would look out for Montana State to keep this game close. I think this is going to be just like last year's Boise State Oregon game was a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch on Saturday night. I think we're going to see two really good teams play a really good football game.
Yeah, I'm curious. Again, I'm going to keep an eye on this one for more, obviously, maybe for that reason. Dante Moore, his first start at Oregon, what's that going to look like? Like I said, Montana State's been a powerhouse at the FCS level. They've been a really good football program. And, you talked about it with Boise State. Let's not remember what happened with Idaho. I think it was Idaho last year who almost upset Oregon in Eugene. If I remember correctly, it was Idaho. But it was a game where they were
Yeah.
doing trick plays to keep them in the game, and it was early in the season. And you brought it up in the season preview about Dan Lanning talking about his team is like, we're talented, but we're going to need experience. So I think
Yeah.
Oregon will probably win this game, but I'm with you. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a one score game at halftime or, a 10, 13 point game going into the fourth quarter. It would not surprise me at all with that. So that's something I'd keep an eye on as well. But I'm excited to see what Dante Moore can do after sitting and learning that Oregon offense the last year behind Dylan Gabriel. I look forward to seeing what he can do.
Absolutely. Then my one game from Sunday night wanted to highlight here Virginia Tech versus number 13 South Carolina. Virginia Tech, a team you were pretty high on last year, didn't exactly work out so well for him.
No.
But facing off against South Carolina, a team I'm pretty big on this year, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with Virginia Tech. This is a big game to schedule early, and for South Carolina, this is no joke to start your season. This is an opportunity to kind of prove you deserve to be in this top 25.
Yeah, I'm more looking forward to the field crew at this game because this game's played at Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. That's on Sunday. Saturday, Tennessee and Syracuse play there at 11 a.m. So I'm interested is, if someone happens to the field, how
Yeah.
are they going to, get things ready? It's such a quick turnaround there. But no, looking at the actual game, these are two electric quarterbacks, Kyron Drones, Lenore Sellers. I look forward to seeing them go head to head here. The better overall team is South Carolina in this game, at least in my personal opinion. Uh, so I look forward to seeing what happens. I do enjoy us getting two Sunday games now because we've always had in the past just the one Sunday night game on Labor Day weekend, but I
Yeah.
having one in the afternoon to go along with it is something I look forward to seeing. But to me, South Carolina is the better overall team. I expect them to go out and kind of handle business in this game. Uh, but Kyron Drones, he's an electric QB. He could make some plays to give Virginia Tech a chance in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And then finally, I look at the Monday game, TCU versus UNC. Look, two teams. It's going to be interesting to kind of figure out what these teams are about. Obviously, for North Carolina, the big thing, first year of Bill Belichick. What's that going to look like at the college football level? Uh, and look, with TCU, I just don't know what to expect with this team. Look, it's still crazy to say we're, what, 2 or 3 years removed from them being in the
Yeah.
national championship. So we know what kind of this coaching staff is capable of with this TCU team,
Yeah.
and we know what anything can happen in the Big 12. So this is a great launching point to kind of put yourself in the national spotlight, facing off against Bill Belichick early, to kind of get attention on TCU, and maybe have them back in this Big 12 conference conversation.
Maybe so. Again, I think this is probably the most hyped people have been for a college coaching debut, probably since Deion Sanders' first game, which ironically was against TCU. So, we're gonna see what happens here. I'm very intrigued to see what the offensive system's going to be like for North Carolina because I'm very curious what it's going to look like there. And like you mentioned with TCU, we know what they're capable of. To some people, they're kind of a dark horse in the Big 12 this year. Um, I'm curious to see what it's going to be. It's going to be a fun matchup. I look forward to watching this on Monday night. Just seeing the Bill Belichick era, what's going to be like. And, it's high expectations, but at the same time, I'm also the person who said this could be something that turns out really good for North Carolina or something where Bill Belichick's either retired or back in the NFL a year from now. So I look forward to seeing how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. I think, look, I think it really doesn't matter how good or bad Bill Belichick is at North Carolina. I think he's probably an NFL coach come next NFL season. There was the big thing about the contract. It took forever to
Yep.
get finalized because they basically wanted guarantees that he was going to be here next year, and those were guarantees that he wasn't willing to make. Um, I think that there will be a team desperate enough out there to grab Bill Belichick if he has a bad season in North Carolina. And if he has a good season in North Carolina, I think there's a team that'll say, hey, this guy still got it. Look at what he did in one
Yep.
year in college football. Let's get him back in the NFL, where that's really kind of his whole area of expertise. So it's nothing against North Carolina, but I think this is more of just Bill Belichick kind of rebounding and then setting himself back up for the NFL here. Um, but with that being said, let's get into our game picks. Three huge, massive games to talk about.
Woo!
And let's talk about the first one we're going to see. Number one, Texas versus number three, Ohio State. The defending national champs will get maybe the most hyped quarterback official starting debut. I mean, I know he's made
Yeah.
some starts, I know he's played some games, but this is the official Arch Manning era here in Texas. Uh, it's a pretty hyped game for Texas. They're the number one team in the nation. They've got so much momentum facing off against, one of the best players, maybe the most electric player in college football right now, and Jeremiah Smith, and the defending national champs. This is going to be huge. Everybody's got their eyes on it. What are your thoughts about this game, and who do you have winning it?
Well, my thoughts on the game, if you want me to be honest, is I hate big noon kickoffs. But if we're talking about the actual game and my thoughts on, should be played in prime time, I don't know why this isn't played in prime time, but the game's going to be a fun one, I think. Again, no matter what, people will have their overreactions to Arch Manning. I personally think you'll see a little bit of good and bad in it. Nothing terrible in the game. For not just him, but for Julian Sayin too. These are two quarterbacks who really their first true test is going to be a 1 versus 3 matchup. With all the lights around, Lee Corso's final show is going to be there. Like there's going to be such a big atmosphere around this game. To me, though, the difference is the trenches, the O line and D line. I have questions about Ohio State on the O line, and then the Texas defensive line. I think should be one of the better ones in the SEC. So to me, that's where I think it's dominated there. Plus, the good news for Arch Manning is he's playing against a Matt Patricia defense. So he should be able to have 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. I'm kidding. No, the trenches is going to be the key part for me. I'm going to give the edge to Texas there to win on the road. I just think overall, to be honest with you, I think they're the better team as a whole. Not that Ohio State's not talented. They just have more experience also at Texas as well with that. So I'll give the edge to Texas to win this one in a close one. Wouldn't be shocked if it's a low scoring game, though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. Like you said, a lot of first tests for these quarterbacks we're going to kind of see. But look, you're really taking the words out of my mouth. I think when push comes to shove, the more experienced team, the more talented team right now is Texas. I think they answer the bell, get the job done against Ohio State. I'm not saying Ohio State's going to have a bad year, but look, I'm expecting a little bit of a bump in the road to start with Julian saying. I don't think he's going to be a bad quarterback, but
Right.
coming in, redshirt freshman quarterback. He's going to take his licks. I think this Ohio State team loses 2 or 3 games this season, but I think still they're going to be talented enough. And being the defending national champs, they're still going to have a chance at that college football playoff. I'm not counting them out there. But I do think that we'll see this team lose at least 2 games this season, just with kind of the shift. And it's not just at quarterback. You talked about some of the big pieces you lost on defense. Look, Jack Sawyer, kind of an anchor for this defense over the last few years. And you looked at the huge plays he made on that national championship run last year. He's gone. Travion Henderson is gone, and he kind of anchored the
Yeah.
backfield the last couple of years,
Both
along with.
coordinators, too. I kind of hinted at with Matt Patricia, but both coordinators are now gone. So new coordinators taking over at Ohio State. Meanwhile, Texas has got their whole coaching staff back pretty much.
Yeah, so not that Ohio State can't be great, not that they can't win this game, but to me personally, I'm going to go with the team that's more experienced, more consistent, and I'm going to take the Texas Longhorns in this one. Then we've got our second game here, number 9 LSU versus number 4 Clemson. This is going to be a matchup. A lot of the trash talk about who's the real Death Valley
Mm-hmm.
going on all off season, as well as 2 quarterbacks who were seniors ready to make a statement and ready to prove who they are. But look, these are 2 guys that are kind of a little bit turnover happy too. They've got big
Yeah.
arms, great arms. They can make some incredible throws, but they love to try and use that ball into tight spots. What are your thoughts on this game, these quarterbacks, and who do you think's going to win?
Well, my thoughts on the game again. I will say this: Texas Ohio State is probably the biggest obvious matchup for because obviously it's number 1 versus number 3. This is the one I'm looking forward the most to watching, though. I'm of all the 3 top 10 matchups, so this is the one I look forward to the most. You talk about both quarterbacks kind of turnover happy, but at the same time can put up really solid numbers. And you talked about with the QB, these are 2 guys that people expect to go round 1 in the NFL draft next year. I'm told there's going to be so many NFL scouts at this game, just not just for them, but for all the position players that are going to be going in this game. And also, let's say it like it is, these are 2 sides. I don't want to say they're desperate, but it kind of feels like they're both looking for a we need a marquee win after the last couple of years kind of thing. Plus, let's say like this, neither side has been good in opening games over the past couple of years. Clemson
Yeah.
against Georgia, and then against Duke, and then you had LSU with the Florida State debacles, and then USC last year. These are 2 sides that really haven't started the season strong the past couple of years. So I think it'll be a fun one. I'm gonna probably give the edge to the team that I think is the more desperate one at the end of the day. and I think that's LSU. I think LSU is the more desperate team at the end of the day here. I think to me, you'll see their defense be improved in the second year in that system with Blake Barker coming over from Missouri. Uh, the other thing that I just worry about though again is the new defensive system for Clemson. Tom Allen comes in, great DC in his time. He's a great DC, but I just wonder how long it'll take to get that system in there with a new DC coming in. And also, you talked about turnover happy. Which quarterback do I trust more to not make mistakes in this game? I'll give the edge to Garrett Nussmeier there, and I'll give LSU the win. And I guess they get the honor of being the real Death Valley and getting to go home to there.
Yeah. Look, you talk about this game, like you said, two great quarterbacks, two great arms. Um, they're both desperate, like you said. They started the last few years rough, and look, they're both trying to stay relevant. And you talk about to me two coaches that, may I for sure Brian Kelly's seat's getting hot. I'm not
Yeah,
going to say that Clemson would put Dabo Sweeney on the hot seat just because of kind of what he's meant to the program and kind of what he's done for the program during his tenure. But I think he could even maybe be thinking about a change of scenery just if things start to go wrong. But I think two coaches who are, in tough spots right now really need something to turn around for their program. Two programs we've expected that have had these expectations to be competing for national championships, and neither's been particularly close. At least Clemson's made some college football playoffs in the last few years. But LSU hasn't even done that since I've gotten Brian Kelly. But I'm going to go kind of along with you here. I'm going to go with LSU. I'm going to go with the team I have a little bit more confidence in. I think no matter really how good or bad this team is, they recruit well. They put good players on the field. I think they're going to come out and be able to execute against a team like Clemson, it's not that they don't put good players on the field, not that they don't recruit well, but I
right.
don't know, just the denial. I know that he kind of leaned into it this year, but the unwillingness to just lean into that transfer portal and get guys, because there are
Yeah,
guys in that portal that would love to come and play for for a guy like Dabo Sweeney, for a good program like Clemson, and just not leaning in and just going full in and grabbing some of these big names. Uh, I just think I don't know. It should be malpractice. You should be fired for that. We don't live in a day and age where you can ignore the transfer portal.
right,
And
right,
if you do, it's time to get out. Look, Nick Saban, he admitted it. It wasn't his thing. It was way out of his depth, and that was kind of a contributing reason in his retirement. You can't continue to be a coach in college football in this day and age with the way the transfer portal has changed the game and expect to continue to compete for national championships by while denying the biggest asset you maybe have as far as building a team. Uh, is going and getting good players and putting them on your team. It's weird that there's a coach out there who doesn't want to put the best players in the country on his team. Uh, at least not that way. So I'm going to go with LSU. I think they've got the better team. Of course, the way these teams kind of play, any mistake can kind of change that. But again, right now, early season, just kind of leaning into what I think about the teams. I think LSU's got the better team on paper. That's the team I'm going to lean with here. And finally, we've got number 6 Notre Dame and number 10 Miami. They meet up on Sunday. This is going to be a huge game down in Coral Gables. And you know what? I'll go ahead and get it out of the way because we already know where I'm going to lean. I'm going to go with Notre Dame in this
yeah,
game. Look, I do think there are some questions about how well CJ Carr will perform. A really close battle between him and Kenny Michi that was finally decided about a week ago. And so now with CJ Carr coming in, what's he going to be able to do for this team, and how does he look? Do they rely a bunch on Jeremiah Love, or does bringing in CJ Carr here, are they going to throw the ball a little bit more and trust his pocket presence? I expect to see a little bit less option, at least to start the year. Not that CJ Carr isn't mobile, but he's not nearly as mobile as Kenny Michi. I think we're going to lean more into the full-on offense that we played with Riley Leonard last year. That Michi probably would have been the guy. So I'd still expect option because that's a big part of Mike Denbrock's offense, but I'd expect less like designed QB runs and look to lean on Jeremiah Love a little bit. But we know this defense is elite. And with Miami, a lot of questions about what this team's going to be compared to last year. Lost a lot of pieces, but you gain a guy like Carson Beck, and he's at his best shown that he can be a top quarterback in college football. But after the elbow injury, you really wonder what this guy's going to look at, especially playing against one of the best defenses in the country. But I'm going to lead Notre Dame, obviously. Go Irish to start the season, and let's hope for a big top 10 win on the road.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and give my pick out. I'll explain why. I got Notre Dame as well in the game. My thing here is, like I said, Carson Beck. It's a major elbow injury he had. It was quite a severe elbow injury, so you don't know what to expect. But at the same time, I think he'll be fine come ACC play because let's just face it, the talent level in the ACC with some teams is like night and day. So he's going to be able to put up some big numbers there. But he's going against one of the better defenses in the country in Notre Dame. And also, I think that's something Miami struggled with. They have not been a great defensive team in recent years. They've had some solid pieces. They've been a good defense. They haven't been able to take it to the next level in this game. And to me, in a game that I think could be kind of pretty low scoring here, uh, I look at the defenses. I give the edge to Notre Dame there. Plus, again, one of the more one of the more experienced offensive lines in the country, I think also helps Notre Dame here. And also having the best running back in college football probably this year, and Jeremiah Love being back kind of helps you whenever you have a really solid offensive line to go with that. Look, I know the questions about CJ Carr there, but like I said in the season preview, if you're able to run the football and have a really good O line, the rest will take care of itself. You should be able to have success running the football. When now, if you need to pass, you'll give him plenty of time to throw the football. I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win this game pretty confidently. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I will expect Notre Dame to win this game.
All righty. Well, you've got the picks here. Texas, LSU, Notre Dame down the board here on both sides. So don't got to worry too much about conflicting reports here from
Parlay
both
all
sides.
three of them, or parlay the three opposite teams if you want to fade us. I really don't blame you if you do, with it
Yeah.
being week one. So
Week one and top 10 matchups going to be almost impossible to truly predict. But speaking of the parlays, let's hit our bet of the week for week one. Look, it was tough kind of whittling it down. I did only go with one. I'll definitely be betting more than one come this weekend. But I wanted to go ahead and give my surefire, just with not knowing everything coming into this first week of the season, wanted to play it safe with just one. I wanted to go with the one that I thought I was the most confident with. Well, what's your bet of the week for us this week?
my bet of the week, there was a couple I was considering. Like you said, I will probably be doing multiple just like you. One of the ones I know for a fact I'll be doing with Texas being an underdog. That's one I just know I'll be doing just because that's plus one. But my overall bet of the week, I'm heading to Lexington, where Kentucky is opening the season against a team that's probably favored to win the MAC or be one of the top teams competing in the group of five. And that's the Toledo Rockets going on the road and facing them. Toledo, 7.5 point underdog here. That's my bet of the week. I got Toledo plus 7.5. Maybe you could even sprinkle a little bit of money on that money line. I would not be shocked if Toledo won outright in this game. But Toledo plus 7.5 is my bet of the week.
So you're not feeling that 8-win Kentucky team or whatever that bull pick
No,
was. It sounds like.
listen, I try to be nice to the guy in the picks, but I mean, honest here. Plus, also, Toledo is a really, really great team. So it'd be different if they're playing like a middle of the pack or lower level MAC school. Then like, okay, then Kentucky will win that. But with this being one of the favorites, not just to win the MAC, but to make the playoff as that 12 seed, yeah, no, I'm going to pick Toledo to cover the spread easily.
Yeah, look, I'm trying to bounce back from last week. Obviously, so close. One more touchdown in the game would have gotten the over
Yep.
uh in Stanford, Hawaii.
Were you
But
honestly hoping for a missed field goal for overtime?
yeah, it would have been nice. Would have liked to see those points go up because I did put I put $1 on it. I would have made $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh
Yeah, go.
would have been nice. But I didn't. Thanks a lot. Um but we look this week, and I'm going with a pick that I really like, and it's going to be me riding with the Irish a little bit, or a former Irish, but I'm going to go Syracuse plus 14 against Tennessee. I almost want to go money line just for the sake of being that guy, but I'm not that confident that they'll win. But I think this is a good enough program, and especially with the way they finished in the ACC last year, that they're going to be a competitive school. especially in a weak ACC. I think Angeli showed kind of his talent against the top teams last year, filling in for those moments where Riley Leonard wasn't 100% and giving him those breaks throughout some games. And in that college football playoff game against Penn State, where he led a drive that kept Notre Dame in that ball game. I mean, had we not scored on that drive, we would have been looking at a much different result on the college football playoff. So Angeli's got the skills. I like him to keep it inside of 14 points against Tennessee.
Okay. I like the pick.
Yep. So, with all that being said, look, that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. We are headed into week one. Look,
Yes.
from Thursday until Monday, you should just have permission to not leave your couch at all for this college football weekend. Unfortunately, I know some of us will. But at least that's at least from Friday night until, Tuesday morning. You shouldn't leave the couch.
Yeah, right, right.
Um, Head to work on Tuesday, and you've not moved
Yeah,
since you got home on Friday.
absolutely. But hey,
Um,
also not just that, something I wanted to add in Austin, of course, for those of you who know, 9 at 8 a.m. on Saturday is college game day, their first of the season, and the last one for the great Lee Corso, his final headgear pick, his final college game day. Um, so my question to you is, Austin, is what is your message to Lee Corso for what he's meant for college football? We got to get this in here for his final one.
yeah, I mean, honestly, obviously, he's an icon. He's kind of a staple of college football for my entire life.
Yep.
He's just one of the guys you associate with college football. I mean, not even just the headgear picks, but with us growing up, he was a commentator in the early NCAA football games. So Lee Corso is an icon and a legend of college football, and obviously he's going to be sorely missed. Being able to go down to Waco back in 2019 and being able to see College Game Day for Baylor versus Oklahoma and being able to see it live was something special. But yeah, he's certainly going to be missed because he is definitely one of the top three things you think of when you think of college football.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I mean, let's just say it feels like college football is not allowed to kick off until that he ends the show. Like it's like
Agreed.
not allowed. Like even whenever the show goes past 11 and it's like, why aren't you playing games? I'm like, well, they're not starting anything until we get Lee's pick, and then we can move into the slate. But like I said, for me growing up, for all that, yeah, he was not only doing the college video games, doing college game day, he was also calling games on Thursday nights. Him and Kirk Herbstreit were calling the games there. So just something, it was always something you could look forward to, even in the years where Arkansas football was, like in its doubts, it's like not a good program. It's like no matter what, I could wake up on Saturday mornings and something he did, he always made it an entertainment. It was no just like sitting and talking. It was he loved the entertainment factor of it. That's something else that I think something people don't even realize with it. Yeah, the headgear picks this and that. He made that into a entertaining show. He's been there since the beginning of that show to what it's grown to be, which is something that is what every single person gets up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday for. Not many people like getting up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
They want to sleep in, but people get up for college game day for that. So yeah, my final message to him is just thank you, and I hope he enjoys retirement because he
Yeah.
deserves it, a lot of it.
Yeah, so absolute blast, an absolute pleasure, an incredible icon of the sport. But that'll do it for us here at the Bull Take Podcast. That's Austin Wader. I'm Austin Hill. Make sure you watch some college football this weekend, and we want to thank you for listening.